Before you scroll away, stop for just a moment. Because this isn't happening by accident. Your soulmate is sending one last silent signal. Don't miss it. If you ignore it today, you may spend a lifetime wondering what it meant. Listen carefully. My child. There are moments in life that never arrive with loud voices. They never knock on the door or announce themselves for the world to hear. Instead, they arrive quietly, almost invisibly, like a gentle breeze that brushes past your heart. Most people mistake those moments for coincidence. They call them random thoughts, strange dreams, or unexpected emotions. But deep inside, they know something feels different. They know something is trying to reach them. The silent signal your soulmate is sending does not come from words. It comes from the invisible bond that still exists between your hearts. Distance cannot erase it. Time cannot destroy it. Even silence itself cannot break it. Right now, while you are listening to these words, your soulmate may be sitting somewhere, feeling a strange emptiness they cannot explain. They may suddenly stop whatever they are doing, stare into the distance, and wonder why your memory refuses to leave their heart. Don't skip, because the next few moments may explain emotions you have been carrying for much longer than you realize. Over the last few days, have you noticed yourself thinking about someone without any clear reason? Perhaps their name appeared in your mind while you were busy. Perhaps a song suddenly reminded you of them. Maybe you dreamed about someone you have not spoken to in a long time. These moments are often ignored, but they are rarely meaningless. They are gentle whispers from a connection that refuses to disappear. Your soulmate has been fighting a battle inside their own heart. Outwardly, they may appear calm. They smile when people are watching. They continue with work, family, responsibilities, pretending everything is under control. But behind that calm face, there is a question they cannot answer, a feeling they cannot escape. They keep asking themselves why your presence still feels so close, even when you are far away. Someone around them recently reminded them of you without even realizing it. It could have been a conversation, a photograph, a familiar place, or a simple sentence spoken by a stranger. That tiny moment shook something inside them. They didn't react immediately. They stayed quiet. But ever since then, their heart has refused to return to normal. This silent signal is not dramatic. It is not loud. That is why so many people miss it. Your soulmate isn't shouting your name. They are remembering you in silence. They are wondering if fate still has unfinished plans. They are asking questions they once tried so hard to bury. Don't skip, because what happened next surprised even them. Late one evening, when everything around them had finally become quiet, they found themselves opening something connected to the past. Maybe it was an old message. Maybe it was a forgotten photograph. Maybe it was simply a memory they had promised themselves they would never revisit again. But the moment they looked at it, every emotion they thought had disappeared returned all at once. For the first time in a long while, they stopped running from their own feelings. They realized that no matter how many distractions filled their life, one empty space inside their heart had never been replaced. And at that exact moment, something completely unexpected happened. They sat there in complete silence, holding that memory as if time itself had stopped moving. The room around them remained unchanged, yet everything inside their heart felt different. They realized they had spent so much time convincing themselves that the past was over, that there was nothing left to hope for. But the more they tried to forget, the more your presence quietly returned. It wasn't through loud emotions or dramatic events. It was through the smallest moments that refused to disappear. Don't skip. Because this was the moment they could no longer hide the truth from themselves. A close friend noticed something had changed. They asked a simple question: "Why have you been so distracted lately?" Your soulmate smiled and tried to change the subject, but deep inside they already knew the answer. Every time your name crossed their mind, their heart reacted before their thoughts could stop it. That frightened them. Because they believed those feelings were supposed to be gone by now. Over the next few days, strange coincidences began to appear one after another. They heard a familiar song at exactly the right moment. They passed a place that reminded them of you. Someone mentioned a story that sounded almost identical to your journey together. Each event seemed small on its own, but together they formed a pattern that became impossible to ignore. They started asking themselves a question they had avoided for far too long. What if I was wrong? What if the person I tried to leave behind was never truly meant to leave my heart? That single question echoed through their mind day and night. No matter how busy they became, it always returned. One quiet evening, they opened their phone, scrolled through old conversations, and paused over something they had never deleted. Their finger hovered above the screen for several long moments. They wanted to send a message. Just one message. But fear held them back. Fear of rejection. Fear that too much time had passed. Fear that you had already moved on. Even without sending anything, that silent decision became another signal. It proved that your place inside their heart had never been replaced. Don't skip. Because someone unexpectedly noticed this change before your soulmate even admitted it to themselves. A family member quietly watched their behavior over the past few weeks. They noticed the distant look in their eyes, the moments of silence, and the way they would suddenly smile at memories no one else could see. Finally, they asked, "Is there someone you're still thinking about?" Your soulmate didn't answer immediately. But the silence itself revealed everything. And just as they were about to finally speak the truth, a completely unexpected message arrived that changed the direction of everything. The notification appeared on the screen without any warning. It wasn't the message your soulmate had been expecting, yet something about it made their heart race instantly. They stared at it for several seconds, unable to decide whether to open it or ignore it. Deep inside, they felt as though this moment had been quietly waiting for them all along. Their hands trembled slightly, not because they were afraid of the message itself, but because they feared what it might awaken inside their heart. Don't skip. Because what happened next made them question every decision they had made. When they finally opened the message, it wasn't filled with dramatic words. It was surprisingly simple. A few ordinary sentences. Yet each one carried the weight of forgotten emotions. It spoke about second chances, unfinished stories, and how life sometimes brings people back together when they least expect it. To anyone else, it would have looked like an ordinary message. But to your soulmate, it felt strangely personal. Almost as if someone understood the secret they had been hiding from everyone. They slowly locked their phone and leaned back, closing their eyes. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped arguing with their own heart. Instead of pushing your memory away, they allowed themselves to feel it completely. Every laugh you once shared, every promise left unfinished, every moment they believed had disappeared forever, came rushing back like waves that refused to stay calm. That night, sleep never truly came. Every hour they woke up with the same thought returning to their mind. They kept wondering where you were. Whether you were happy. Whether fate had already written a different ending. Or whether there was still one unopened chapter waiting for both of you. As morning arrived, they looked at themselves in the mirror and realized something had changed. The person staring back no longer looked like someone trying to escape the past. Instead, they looked like someone preparing to face a truth they had avoided for far too long. They quietly whispered to themselves, "If this feeling keeps returning, maybe it was never meant to disappear." Don't skip. Because another unexpected sign appeared before the day was over. While going through a drawer they hadn't opened in months, they found a small keepsake connected to an important memory. It could have been an old photograph, a handwritten note, or a tiny gift they had forgotten was still there. The moment they held it in their hands, a single tear rolled down their face. They finally admitted that no matter how much time had passed, one part of their heart had always belonged to you. At that exact moment, someone unexpectedly entered the room. They looked at the keepsake. Looked at your soulmate's expression. And asked one question that neither of them was prepared to answer. The room fell completely silent. Your soulmate quickly tried to hide the keepsake, but it was already too late. The person standing in the doorway had seen everything. They had seen the tears, the trembling hands, and the expression that could never be faked. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence reveals far more than words ever could. Don't skip. Because the next conversation uncovered a truth your soulmate had been hiding even from themselves. The family member walked closer and gently asked, "Why are you still carrying this after all this time?" Your soulmate lowered their eyes. They searched for an answer that would make sense, but none came. Every excuse sounded empty. Every explanation felt incomplete. Finally, after taking a deep breath, they admitted something they had never said aloud before. "I told everyone I had moved on. But my heart never believed me." Those few words changed everything. The family member didn't react with anger or disappointment. Instead, they sat beside your soulmate and quietly said, "We've been watching you for months. We noticed how you become silent whenever someone talks about love. We noticed how your smile disappears whenever weddings, anniversaries, or new beginnings are mentioned. We knew there was still someone living inside your heart. We were only waiting for you to admit it." Your soulmate closed their eyes. For the first time, they realized they were no longer carrying this burden alone. Someone else had seen the pain they had tried so hard to hide. Don't skip. Because what happened later that evening felt almost impossible to explain. As the sun began to set, your soulmate stepped outside to clear their mind. The air was calm, the streets were quiet, yet an unusual feeling followed them wherever they went. Everywhere they looked, little reminders seemed to appear: a familiar place, a meaningful date on a sign, a song drifting from a nearby car, even a stranger saying a phrase that sounded exactly like something you once said. None of these moments proved anything on their own. But together they felt like invisible pieces of the same puzzle. That night, they made a decision they had been avoiding for far too long. They returned home, picked up their phone, opened your contact once again, and this time they didn't look away after a few seconds. They stared at your name for several minutes, their thumb resting above the screen. They knew that pressing one button could change everything. Or change nothing at all. Their heartbeat grew louder with every passing second. Then, just before they could make their choice, the phone suddenly rang. The name that appeared on the screen left your soulmate completely frozen. The phone continued to ring, but your soulmate couldn't move. Their eyes remained fixed on the screen as if time itself had stopped. They blinked once. Then again. Hoping they had imagined what they were seeing. But the name was still there. The one name they never expected to appear at that exact moment. Don't skip. Because this was the silent signal they had been waiting for without even realizing it. For several long seconds, they didn't answer. Their heart was beating so loudly that it drowned out the sound of the ringtone. Every memory, every unanswered question, every emotion they had buried over the years came rushing back all at once. They wondered if this call was simply another coincidence. Or if it was the beginning of something they had once believed was impossible. With trembling hands, they finally reached toward the phone. Just before touching the screen, the ringing stopped. The silence that followed felt even louder. They stared at the missed call, unable to breathe for a moment. Part of them wanted to call back immediately. Another part whispered that perhaps they were already too late. That inner battle continued for several minutes until they made a choice they had never had the courage to make before. Instead of waiting for fate to decide everything, they decided to take one small step themselves. They unlocked the phone again, opened your conversation, and began typing a message. The words didn't come easily. They wrote one sentence. Erased it. They wrote another. Erased that too. Nothing seemed powerful enough to express everything their heart had been carrying in silence. Finally, they closed their eyes and typed only what was true. I don't know why. But I've never completely forgotten you. They looked at those words for a long time without pressing send. Don't skip. Because at that exact moment, another unexpected surprise changed everything again. A new notification appeared before they could make their decision. It wasn't from you. It was from someone who knew both of you. Someone who had quietly watched the entire story unfold from the beginning. The message contained only one sentence. There's something you were never told about what really happened between you two. Your soulmate felt their heartbeat race once again. Without wasting another second, they opened the message. And the very first line revealed a secret that had been hidden for years. The first line was so unexpected that your soulmate read it again. And then a third time. Hoping they had misunderstood it. It said, "You were never separated because love disappeared. You were separated because the truth was hidden from both of you." In that single moment, years of confusion suddenly began to make sense. Don't skip. Because this final piece changes everything. The message explained that long ago, words had been left unsaid, intentions had been misunderstood, and decisions had been made by people who believed they were protecting everyone involved. Small misunderstandings slowly became permanent silence. Silence turned into distance. Distance became a story that neither of you ever had the chance to correct. Your soulmate sat in complete silence, realizing that they had spent years blaming themselves for something they never fully understood. Every sleepless night. Every unanswered question. Every moment they wondered whether you had stopped caring. Suddenly felt different. For the first time, they understood that not every ending happens because love disappears. Sometimes, the truth simply arrives too late. They slowly looked through old memories one final time, not with regret, but with gratitude. Those memories no longer felt like chains holding them back. They felt like reminders that genuine feelings never completely disappear. They simply wait for honesty to bring them back into the light. As the sun began to rise the next morning, your soulmate made a quiet promise to themselves. They would no longer let fear make their decisions. They would no longer hide behind silence. Whether life brought another chance or simply brought peace, they would finally choose truth over uncertainty. At that exact moment, a gentle calm settled over their heart. The endless questions that had haunted them for so long finally became quieter. They realized that the last silent signal had never been about forcing a reunion or predicting the future. It was about finding the courage to face the feelings they had spent years trying to ignore. And perhaps That was the greatest message of all. Sometimes the strongest connection is not the loudest one. Sometimes the most important signal is the one that quietly reminds you to heal, to forgive, and to let truth replace fear. If two hearts are truly meant to cross paths again, honesty will guide them. If life has written a different chapter, that same honesty will help them walk forward without carrying the weight of unanswered questions. Either way, the silence has finally spoken. And your soulmate will never ignore that signal again.